again, and welcome back to another episode of Alter Your Health Live, your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. I'm your host, Dr. Benjamin Alter.
And I'm Dr. Susanna.
Thank you so much again for joining us. We just had a little hiccup with the Facebook Live thing, but I think we're back in action. Running on a hot spot here in Carbondale, Colorado, which is where we're coming to you live from. And we are, if you've been following our journey, you've known that we've been on this kind of extended road trip that's brought us up through British Columbia, all the way out to Michigan, back through the United States, and we're winding our way through Colorado now. So we're enjoying the beauty of Carbondale here, which is my first time to this part of Colorado. So we're going to talk about home and what home has to do with your health. Yeah. So, Susanna, what is home for you?
What's home? All right. Well, I feel like this has actually come up as a big question in my life as I've grown up. Because I guess, just a brief story. When I was in college, I traveled to Nepal, and it was so far out of my comfort zone, and I felt challenged the whole time. I felt homesick the whole time. I really missed home. And by the end of my time there, I had this kind of realization that, wow, like home is where I decide to make it, and home is really, I have a firm belief that home is really kind of where your heart is. So no matter where you are physically on this planet, you can really find a sense of belonging and community and peace and presence wherever you are, because all those feelings really reside from your heart and yourself. And but it's funny because here we are, Benjamin and myself, on this journey of trying to find our next home, because we just moved from Portland, where we just weren't feeling much of that belonging. So I do also believe that, there is also this external factor, how our environment does really kind of also play into our health. And
You okay?
I'm okay.
All right, cool.
It's like I'm trying to explain how the sense of belonging and home comes from within, but the outer environment also obviously plays a role.
Yeah, it's really kind of this interesting balance, this dance. We talk about environment a lot, we do, in terms of health. I like to focus on the internal environment of the body to promote, a healing and, to naturally promote healing. But we obviously can't forget about the external environment that involves our relationships, obviously the environmental pollutants and toxicants that we might be exposed to in any environment. But what you're talking about is more like the sense, the feeling of belonging and the sense of community and the feeling of being home, which is really kind of this, I agree, for me also, it's kind of this nebulous feeling that I sometimes don't feel, even when I am like quote unquote home. In living in Portland for the better part of 5 years, I wouldn't say that I felt like I was home in Portland. Yeah. So where do you feel home?
You want me to say?
Well, I mean, like, give some. Where have you felt home?
Where have I felt home?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess the places where I've felt home, and when I say that, I feel like, another way to say that is like wherever I was in the external environment, for whatever reason, it was easier for me to access that part of myself that knows I belong.
That's definitely a better way of phrasing it, because that part of you is always there.
Yes.
That part of each one of us is always there, but our access and connection to it might change
Yes.
from moment to moment, and also from city to city.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so there's some places where I'm able to access that with much more ease.
So
such as well, I grew up in Michigan. I went to high school in Connecticut. I never really felt quite like I don't know, never really felt totally like home. There was always some little angst there. But then I went to college in Colorado, and Colorado felt like home.
And here we are again
And here we are in Colorado.
in the middle of Colorado in the mountains. And Susanna, I'll just kind of, summarize your experience from my perspective the last 5 days. Susanna has been like a ball of sunshine that I mean, it's been, beautiful sunny days, blue skies, like gorgeous colors of the trees, like everything is vibrant here.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a special time in Colorado. And yeah, I feel like you're really connected with that specialness and the beauty.
Well, yeah. I mean, the last few days, I feel like I've just been tapping into just this feeling of gratitude and appreciation and just love, and everywhere I go it's so beautiful, and I know, like we said, I can feel that anywhere, but for some reason here it's just so much easier for me to feel that. So.
Yeah. So just kind of, I'm curious, do you think that it is like, what percentage of that feeling do you think is due to your physical environment?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you're out of school and it's summertime and it's like, beautiful weather, and like you don't have anything, you're free, or do you think it's like really Colorado?
I actually feel like it's a greater percent of being here in this environment, because I mean, you and I, we've done a lot of traveling to a lot of beautiful places. Yeah. But
you've been in, school obligations, studying, and
that's
working.
True. But now I have work obligations.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of same.
So you do feel like your physical environment in Colorado is like really the vast majority of your feeling comes from the Colorado environment.
I think, yeah. I think it does. It does. And well, anyway, I think what we also wanted to talk about today is how the external environment, how it affects health, and how that's even been studied. Yeah. Because there's a researcher that we have loved reading his work. His name is Dan Buettner, and he wrote lots of books about blue zones, articles about blue zones, and do you want to give a little snippet about blue zones?
Yeah, well, it started with studying these areas around the world where people live the longest, healthiest life. And specifically, they're living like well into their hundreds, the majority of people. And not only are they living into their hundreds, but they're thriving into their hundreds, and they're also, they're super healthy people all around the world. And they've looked at diet, they've looked at lifestyle factors, all sorts of things that they think, and vitamin D, whether in their sunshine, and all these things that they think might play a role into the longevity and health of these populations. And all of them do play a role. You can't single in anything as being the most important factor or whatnot. But one important factor is the sense of community, and specifically how these elders grow older. They aren't like exiled from the community and put into old folks' homes and, kind of quarantined and, sitting around just like looking at a TV with other old folks. They're very much part of the family, part of the community, and revered for their wisdom and their life experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one aspect of the blue zones. And then Dan Buettner has also been studying the these blue zones of happiness, which
Right.
is areas around the world where people, you know, I don't really know how specifically how they rate the happiness, how they measure it,
Hmm.
but they find ways to measure happiness. And yeah. So Susanna, do you want to share about how the factors of these blue zones of happiness?
Yeah. Well, so Dan has studied, he's looked all around all the cities in America and rating which cities are the happiest ones in America and seeing what they have in common. And what he found is that three really important factors for making a happy city is that there's plenty, it's easy to walk around or bike around. So you can, bike commute to work or whatever. And just this bringing more movement into your daily life creates for a happier body. Another thing that is important is easy access to parks and green space, which, connecting with nature is hugely important.
Totally.
We're huge fans of Nature Cure. And then the third point is reducing fast food and junk food and making it easier to access fresh and organic produce, which, gosh, that's such a huge factor for me in my mind. Because, we've been driving through so many towns where we just look around and it's like,
what are these people eating?
Where's the grocery store?
Yeah.
And the energy is definitely kind of like low, I feel like when we go through those.
Yeah, my energy feels low.
Yeah. So other little factors, quirky factors are things like there aren't many billboards in the happiest cities, and and also like access to good health care and stuff like that, good resources.
Yeah.
So
these things, I'm just kind of noting that these things certainly overlap between, like, happiness and health overlaps.
They certainly do.
It's like the health food, green space, walking. Like, these are all factors that play into physical health and, the absence of disease prevention and that sort of thing, as well as happiness.
Yeah, it really is. I feel like our external environment is another kind of determinant of health. I'm remembering actually learning from an Ayurvedic teacher that the 5 pranas, kind of the 5 things that influence health most strongly, are food, relationships, work, environment, and I'm blanking on the 5th one.
That's okay. Maybe we'll find it and put it in the notes.
Work, relationship. Oh, crap. Oh, well. Carry on. Environment was certainly one of them, though. So.
Yeah, and, we always consider the environment in health. Not always, but, we often talk about the pollutants in our environment and that sort of thing. And, yeah. Did you come up with it?
I just thought of the 5th one.
Right.
Okay, work, relationships, food, environment, and thoughts are the 5 determinants.
Duh.
Anyway.
Work, relationship,
the 5
food,
pranas.
Environment, and thoughts.
Yes. So, and the sense and how the pranas work are that they can either give you energy or take energy away from you. So if you're in a positive environment, it's going to feed your energy. If you're in a negative environment, it'll drain that energy. Yeah,
I feel like the whole energy balance, how things can give and take energy, that's like we should do a conversation on that. That's a huge thing to discuss, how to kind of protect your energy during situations where it might be drained.
Yeah.
But cool. So the 5 pranas, environment being one of them. Yeah, I was just going to say how we always consider environment with regard to whether you're exposed to toxins or mold or these kind of things, air pollution, but the subtleties, the individualized environmental factors. Some people prefer the city life and actually thrive in a city, and they are healthiest in a city. And I can't say that I don't think I'm one of those people, but everyone has their individual preference. And I think really the intention of this conversation, the intention of this episode is just to remind the listeners how your external environment does play a huge impact into how you're feeling physically, mentally, emotionally in this world.
Certainly.
And there, if you have, and then, it's like once you have that awareness, then I feel like it's, you have the invitation to choose where you go accordingly. For example, even if I, when I was living in Portland, for example, there were some places, some parts of town, some restaurants, some coffee shops that I just felt icky in. And it was like overstimulation, and, the people were loud, or maybe people were loud, and these kind of things. And it's like, you can create a little micro environment within your environment,
right? Certainly,
to promote health on all these levels.
Yeah. And like we were saying, one of the main factors in a happy city is walkability, bikeability, but you can incorporate movement into your day simply by walking the stairs rather than taking the elevator.
Right.
And
if you don't live in one of these, like, quote unquote happiest places around the world where you have access to all the trails and bike paths, that is not an excuse not to move your body.
Right. But also it's not like, it doesn't mean you're not going to be happy either, because you can then inspire the community around you to hop on board and start moving more, and then maybe then the community will start demanding more walkways or bike paths or bike lanes or whatever it is, and so then the community can change the city. And
that's exactly the work actually that Dan Buettner is doing now, is creating these blue zone centers around the country where they're incorporating some of these factors that we've been talking about to transform the health and the happiness of these communities. It's amazing.
I love too. I read in one of his articles that one of the best things you can do if you're trying to just maximize happiness in your life is to make a new friend who's a happy person, because if you're around happy people, like, you can't help but not be happy too. It's contagious. So surround yourself with like what you're looking for, and you'll start feeling it more from your own heart. So,
well, on that note, I feel like that's what Susanna is, one thing that Susanna is doing in my life, is helping me access my happiness. Because I don't know. I feel like you just have a more direct connection, direct awareness to your authentic light and sunshine. Like, I was kind of started this conversation saying how you've been like the happiest person, and we say we're in Colorado and it's nice, but the truth is that
I'm a pretty
she's a happy
bubbly
person. She's a happy person.
I'm a cosmic bubble,
and it helps me. So thanks. Yeah.
I don't know why, but I also feel called to share this, that I started off this podcast with just a brief story of how I felt when I was in Nepal versus like how I felt in Colorado, where I felt I was in school in Colorado. I felt so just happy and content and comfortable, and I actually kind of came to a point in my life where I felt like I needed a little challenge, like I needed to be outside of my comfort zone. And so I feel like sometimes we can also use our external environment as like a means to grow and evolve, if that's what our soul is really looking for in that time.
You mean through like a challenge? Or through I mean, we grow under stress.
We grow under stress.
We this conversation isn't telling you to find your bubble of happiness and stay there.
Yeah, because sometimes that can feel uncomfortable too.
Yeah. In my experience, I feel like bored when when I find that groove. When the groove gets too groovy,
right,
I feel bored.
Totally.
I wanted to also mention maybe about like the actual home.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, because we've been, as I've been referring to it, home free for a month and kind of on the go. And we're in this box that's our van that's really, I feel like I'm at home here.
Mhm.
And I think that's because we have, intentionally made it that way.
Mhm.
And I'm not like a decorator or a feng shui specialist or anything like that, but those things, I haven't studied anything to any of that degree. But I do know how, like, the actual visual, physical environment is hugely impactful for how I feel.
Yeah.
What about you?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah, keeping an environment clean keeps my mind a little
Clean.
also more clean. Yeah. And so I think that's a big piece for me is keeping things clean.
Is there anything else, Susanna, like in your home, like now home, this home, and then, in your future homes, that is like a staple for your health and well-being, that you must, like a must have, whether it's a tool or a visual piece of art or a sentimental thing, or
like in the home itself?
like in the home itself? Yeah.
Well, it's funny. What comes to mind is like lots of light. Lots of light.
Like a window.
Like a beautiful window.
Just a window. That's all you need to be happy. That's good.
A bathtub.
Don't have that at the moment.
A gas range. No, I'm kidding. But actually, like, that's when it kind of comes down to, I feel like more the thing that I would really feel home with is like my family,
So there isn't anything in the home besides loved ones that make your home sweet and special.
I guess, it's like when I'm with my family, we'll create whatever that special place looks like, but I can't visualize like a thing, like a central thing.
Yeah.
But what about you? Because you asked the question.
Yeah, well, the first thing that came to mind for me was the Vitamix.
Oh.
A very practical.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
But yeah, and then beyond that, I think it's more of less of a thing and more of a feeling, so, but aesthetically, like, throwing stuff away that's no longer serving, no longer bringing, no longer adding value, decluttering like constantly.
Right.
It's like practice. It's not something, I mean, I've learned that decluttering is not something that I do and then I'm done. It's like I live decluttered, or I intend to live in a decluttered way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Well, anything else?
No.
Cool. Well, don't want to keep listeners too long because this is the brief live, but just a reminder that much more information, notes from here, and we'll put some notes about Dan Buettner's work, The Blue Zones, his books that are phenomenal, and much more on the website, altered.health/podcast. This is episode number 29. Just released a fantastic episode earlier this week, episode number 28, with Sailesh Rao, Dr. Sailesh Rao. I thought it was like the most impactful conversation I've had on the podcast, one of them at least. So, there's good stuff coming. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
And thanks for listening, and we love you.
We love you.
And we'll check in next week as we, I don't know where we'll be, but we'll check in next week. Okay. All right. Peace and love.